Hi guys, and welcome to the first episode of Guru's Top 10. This is a series where I will be going over players that are often overlooked in certain areas of Football Manager, so I'll just go over what I'm doing today. So the first episode today was Top 10 Wonderkids, and these are just a couple of the Wonderkids I've found in the game which you may not have heard of or you've perhaps overlooked. So I'm just going to go over them quickly. There's 10 here. These are the top 10 I've found so far. 2 defenders, 2 goalkeepers, 3 midfielders and 3 strikers, as I felt that most people would be more interested in the attacking aspect of the Wonderkid system. So I'll start off with the goalkeepers. Nicola Liali, 19-year-old from Virtus Lanciano. 19-year-old goalkeeper from Juventus, on loan at Virtus Lanciano. Decent looking player here. What I'm really impressed by is his determination stat. A high determination stat is very good for young players, as it increases their chances of being a better player in the future and developing quickly. So yeah, goalkeeping stats probably need a bit of work. Obviously his kicking is not too bad. Reflexes need a bit of work. But yeah, looks like an overall good prospect, 300,000, and looks very decent for the future. Recommend getting him if you can't get the obvious candidates such as Jack Butland and so on. Maxim Koval, another one. I'm not sure if he is actually well known throughout the FM community, but he should be if he's not. I've certainly had great experiences with Maxim Koval in the past. At Dynamo Kiev, 19 years old, 1 cap for Ukraine, so definitely worth looking at him. Another good determination stat. Great reflexes in him throwing. One-on-ones need a bit of work. But he's a solid player. I mean, he'd be a solid player, backup goalkeeper for a top team. But first choice for the mid-table Premier League teams as well. His value is a bit more than Liali, but I think you can probably get him for about 4.5 million or so if you're a big enough club. Now, getting into the defenders. Alessio Romagnoli, from Roma's under-20s, 17 years old, worth 35k. Termination stat not the best on him, but he just looks like a top-class prospect overall. 4.5 stars potential, looking at him from a Newcastle United perspective, so he is one to look at for the future. Bravery stat is the highest there. He's got decent heading, marking, tackling. He's got decent stats for the defending aspect already, so definitely worth taking a look at. If I just go into it here and let's just say centre defender, defend. Key stats here. He's covered more or less in the technical side. Needs to work on the mental a bit more and his physical, but overall looks like a decent player indeed. Next up, I have someone that probably is a bit unrealistic in terms of signing him straight away, but Nathan Ake, the Dutch player at Chelsea. So he's 17 years old, 180k, can play centre defence, left back, CDM and centre midfield. More comfortable in centre midfield than the CDM, it has to be said, but yes, has definitely got potential. Stats here, key defending stats, he's competent in most of them. Although the one thing I would say is it's probably unrealistic to expect to sign Nathan Ake in the first season or 2 seasons or so, but I'd say, I mean, Chelsea normally don't have the best track record when it comes to keeping the young players, as they get a bit fed up with not getting game time, i.e. Daniel Sturridge, etc. Next player up, Ruben Pardo, centre midfielder at Real Sociedad, 1.7 million. Overall a very solid player, got some great stats in here. His creativity stat, for example, passing, technique, teamwork. He just looks like an overall top prospect. Advanced playmaker, deep line playmaker are his top roles, and he can also play CAM and CDM to some effect. So yeah, he looks like a very good player. 19 years of age. Mats Daeli, I think is how you pronounce it, at Manchester United. Centre midfield, but can play in the attacking midfielder positions as well to some extent, and the right midfield and left midfield somewhat. I've had experience with him in this game. I signed him for Huddersfield in FM12 after 3 or 4 seasons, and he does live up to his potential from what I've seen. His stats don't look too spectacular at the moment, but he's 17 years of age. Of course, Manchester United are going to nurture him and are going to develop him. But from what I've seen in FM13 so far is that Manchester United aren't able to keep Mats Daly. And I've seen him sold in 2nd or 3rd season for around 1.2, 1.3 million. and if you can pick him up for that in the second or third season you have the cash, I would recommend doing so. Next player I'll put up will probably be Tristan Bergus at PSV Eindhoven. 16 years of age. You can sign him on a pre-contract agreement now if you so wish. If you're Newcastle United, for example, if you approach to sign Bergus, then he will go into the contract negotiations. That will probably be his wage demand there, with a bonus or two included. So that's Tristan Bergus. Attacking midfielder, can play somewhat in the centre midfield. He's got a couple of okay, actually his fitness is one that was an interesting one. Influence, not bad just for a 16-year-old, and his dribbling isn't bad either, but he shall definitely develop. Average determination, so he has a chance of developing into a top player, but if you can just approach to sign him at the start, I mean, you're not really putting any risk involved in that if you get him at the start for no cost, except for the compensation fee. If you can afford it, then definitely worth taking a risk on him. Next player I focus on is Lucas Ocampos. He's playing at Monaco. 18 years of age, Argentinian striker, can also play on both wings to a very high level. Impressed by his flair attribute and just his in general, just his decent physical attributes and his decent technical attributes, mental attributes. Apart from flair and off the ball, and to some extent work rate, just need a bit more work. Perhaps his composure, his composure, but he needs a bit of work to be a top striker, and his finishing needs to be touched on up on a bit. But his heading and his dribbling, technique, flair, everything just looks in balance there. I mean, his value is probably the one sticking point for an 18-year-old. I haven't come across Ocampos that much, but I have seen him when I was on my Everton save in FM13, and he was in the second season, and he was the top scorer in the French league. So definitely one to keep an eye on. He will not disappoint. So next player up, Anis Akabar. I was tempted to say Anis Akabar. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce that, but another player, Feyenoord striker, can also play on the both attacking midfield positions. Very decent looking prospect. 18 years of age, Dutch, 880k value. Just overall looks very solid. Very decent stats in creativity, in decisions, off the ball, technique, crossing, everything you want there. Finishing, better than Ocampos, but probably needs to be touched on up on a bit. His composure's a bit better. Things you need to really work on, his stamina perhaps, depends on how you want to play him, although he is a deep lying forward or a complete forward. Overall very decent looking prospect as well. If you can pick him up, then he would be an absolute bargain. And the last one, you've probably heard of this man before. If you haven't, then I will fill you in. His name is Soleimane Coulibaly. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, but 17 years old, striker at Tottenham Hotspur, currently on loan at Grosseto. As you can see there, 350k value. 12 goals in 6 appearances for the under-20s for the Ivory Coast. His stats, when you look at them at the start, his technical stats aren't that spectacular, but he's certainly got a lot of flair. But looks like a decent prospect, decent finishing for a 17-year-old. I've had a couple of experiences with him in the game as well. Southampton save, I saw him, and he was playing at Tottenham, but he was not getting his game. But I think he had something like 6 appearances and 3 goals, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on. You could probably pick him up second season. Tottenham a lot of the time do not keep Coulibaly, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on there. So that is the 10 players there. I hope you find them useful to some extent. Just the next thing about the Guru's top 10. Next step for me is probably Guru's top 10 will probably transform into Guru's top 10 will probably transfer into a Guru's top 5, and will involve my followers, where I will give you a certain topic. For example, Guru's top 5 this week will be the top 5 goalkeeping errors, and you send me in the clips of your goalkeepers making a hash of something, or the opposition goalkeeper or whatever, and I pick the top 5 and they will be in the videos. Or perhaps I'll say top 5 oddest regen names in FM13 and you send me screenshots of that. So that's probably the direction that's going eventually. But for now, top 10s of things looks like will last me a couple of videos or so. Suggestions for the next top 10 would be appreciated. Not sure at the moment. Perhaps I'll do something like top 10 coaches, or just top 10 free agents at the start of the game, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But for now, this has been the FM Guru. Thank you very much for watching. All feedback is appreciated. Don't forget to check out what's going on with Guru FC on the forum. Link is down below. Don't forget to check out what's going on Twitter. I am tweeting all day, every day this week as I am off. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.